This week on Painting Lines.
Zverev, is he the most unclutch player on tour right now? Like he just seems like such a choke artist.
Shelton is actually the American player that we feel like can break through and maybe win a slam.
You got to say Sinner's the favorite to win the tournament, right?
Ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. We are in full swing on the road to the US Open with back-to-back Masters 1000 series tournaments. Last week we recapped the first week of Toronto up until the quarters, and this week we'll touch on the second half of the tournament. And with Cincinnati starting up a few days ago, we'll touch on the first couple rounds there and give a little preview on who we think will make a run. And as always, we have merch. The link is available in our bio. And if you're enjoying the show, feel free to like and subscribe. It's a great way to show your support. All right, Aidan, let's jump in here. The Canada Open is notorious for having first time Masters 1000 winners, likely because of the spot on the calendar. With that being said, do you think that the fact that it is technically up for grabs is an overall positive, or do you prefer clay Masters 1000s like Monte Carlo, like Rome, that have traditionally been dominated by a few players?
I got to say, I think that in terms of which one I prefer, I would say Canada is very unique. The bummer is that it doesn't actually even have a lot of those top players. Like the fact that they skip is really the bummer to me. Like if they were playing in it and other players were still winning, I think it would be really probably the most entertaining tournament on the tour. But the fact that they skip it does take away a little bit, but it is fun to see those new names pop up and get a chance to win a title. But like you said, it has been kind of the hot spot over the past few years because of its spot on the calendar, because of that fact that a lot of people skip. And I wanted to go back through. Obviously, we had Shelton this year and Popper last year. But even if you go back to 2023, it was the first time that Sinner won a Masters 1000 tournament. And then even the year before that, Carreño Busta won a Masters 1000 there. So like you said, it's the hot spot. It is very much up for grabs.
Yeah, it almost doesn't even feel like a real Masters 1000 like title compared to Monte Carlo and Rome because of the fact that, like you said, not all the top players are even there, and it's just not as prestigious, it feels like.
Yeah, and it is kind of a bummer for Canada because they do miss out on those a lot of those top guys, but it there's nothing they can really do. Like that's just how the calendar works out.
Yeah, the calendar kind of screws them because also when it's an Olympic year, they get even more screwed too.
Exactly, exactly. They get pushed back.
Yep. So let's just pick up where we left off last week. Aiden, what quarterfinal result do you think was the biggest shock to you? We got Khachanov taking out Mickelson in two sets, Zverev ending Poprin's title defense run, Shelton cruising through Deminar 3 and 4, and then Fritz getting it done against Rublev.
I feel like it has to be Shelton just kind of cruising through Deminar. Like I went into that match being like, this is going to be, I think, a very close one. Deminar's been playing really well, and then all of a sudden, Shelton. I mean, it's not like complete domination, but it didn't really seem like he had that much difficulty against him, and I just thought it was going to be a lot more of a battle.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we were even talking about it, how Deminar, had the ability, or we thought had the ability to neutralize Shelton's serve, and it just didn't seem to be going his way there.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of him not being able to neutralize a serve, we'll get into that later, but he kind of faced a similar issue in Cincinnati.
Do you think I jinxed him by saying he was like one of the best breakers on tour? Because right
Uh,
now it's just not looking like that.
I mean, I think he is a good breaker against like an average serve. Like
Yeah.
there's kind of a weird thing where it's like against like a decent serve, he's like really good at returning, but once it gets past a certain point, he's just like I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's just go on to the semis here. We had an All-American matchup. Fritz taking on Shelton. Shelton gets the dub here, but do you think this is kind of a statement for American tennis, or at least like where the level of American tennis is at? Or do you think you can just chalk it up to like what we said, this Masters 1000 series doesn't have the caliber of talent as like a normal one?
Well, I think we're just talking about the American tennis in like this matchup. I think it does kind of make a statement because we've talked since like 2023 when Shelton had his breakout run at the Australian Open and made what was it the quarterfinals, and then obviously later in the year has made the semis at the U.S. Open. So like he's had these big runs, and we've been talking about how he is actually the American player that we feel like can break through and maybe win a slam. I mean, obviously, since we talked about that, Fritz did make a Masters 1000, or not a Masters 1000, a Grand Slam final when he played against Sinner last year at the U.S. Open. But even then, he went in. He was such a massive underdog. I still feel like Shelton, if he went into that matchup, if it was him playing in that U.S. Open final, it would have felt like he was more of a threat to Sinner compared to where Fritz was at. And I feel like that just shows that if Shelton can build enough confidence in his game, then he's going to be a scary guy for people like Sinner and Alcaraz to face.
Totally. Like you said, more of a threat to center. So the reason Fritz kind of got there or is ranked a lot higher than Shelton is because of his consistency on tour. But you can agree that Shelton has a higher ceiling, right? Like Shelton is more of a threat to the top players than Fritz is.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that, and I think Shelton's also developing that consistency, and that's why he's able to go out and win a title like this.
Yeah, because he wasn't consistent at all before. He would like quarterfinal a slam, not win a single match for, 2 months, and then
Yeah,
semifinal another slam. Like,
no, I mean exactly. I remember back in 2023, I was like, "What is going on with this guy?"
yeah,
He had this quarterfinal run to start the year, and then was just showing up to tournaments and losing in the first round. And I was like, he's got to do something at some point, or he's going to just drop completely off the map. And he ended up making a big run at the U.S. Open. But it's tough for players like that when you have that explosive breakout, and then it's like, okay, now you have expectations on you all of a sudden.
totally. And I love the irony of this matchup too. So you got Fritz, who is the top American, and then Shelton, who's kind of making him a name for himself as, at least a contender for top American, beating Fritz here. And they've only played each other twice. They have a 1-1 head to head. I could see this as a potential rivalry in the works, especially if Shelton becomes more consistent and we can start seeing these two play deeper on in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's a very critical point, though. I think in the matchup, either Fritz is going to be like, no, I'm going to reestablish myself that I'm the top guy, or Shelton is just going to surpass him, and all of a sudden it could just become very one sided.
So what do you think about the other Americans like Tommy Paul, like Tiafo, Nakashima? Like does Shelton just automatically pass them here? I know rankings wise he is, but in the conversation, I feel like it's hard to just discount Tommy Paul and say Shelton's better than him.
I feel like you have to say that though. Like if you go into any slam, who would you expect to make it further
I mean,
at this
Shelton
point?
because
Not
of
based on the
yeah,
past. At this point,
Shelton. Tommy's just hasn't put up the results.
exactly. If you were going into a matchup against a top five player in the world, would you take Tommy Paul or would you take Ben Shelton?
Ooh, I got to take Shelton.
Exactly.
Then on the other side of the draw, on the other semifinal match, we got Khachanov taking out Zverev in an absolute slugfest. This match was insane. 3 sets, came down to a tiebreaker. Khachanov even saved a match point while he was on serve. This just kind of goes to show, like Zverev, is he the most unclutch player on tour right now? Like he just seems like such a choke artist.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I guess factors that support that argument, right? Like what how many times he led a Grand Slam final and lost it? More times than we want to count. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely in contention for least clutch. And yeah, it's tough when you're the guy that's really kind of expected to at least make the final as like essentially like the synthetic number one guy in the world. Like the
Mhm.
top guys above you aren't in the tournament. So you're expected to make a final here. And he goes out to a guy that's not even seated in the top 10.
So it's interesting you say that. Like with Zverev as the top seed, his results this year haven't been that great. Do you think that this is a successful tournament for him for his standards? Like he makes the semifinal here, Masters 1000?
I got to say, not at all, in my opinion. Just because if you look at his career right now, like, I don't think he's really worried about the money aspect. I think he's pretty good in
I
terms of
think I think he's
financially.
pretty well off. Yeah.
Exactly. Uh, I think what he really wants is to win big titles because that's the only thing that can actually motivate him. And he said, like, he's struggling with motivation, right? Earlier this year. I think a lot of guys are like him and Tsitsipas and other guys like that. And it's tough to stay motivated when you're like, yeah, I can make a semifinal, but nobody really cares about that. Like it doesn't really matter. Nobody talks about how the fact that I made a Masters 1000 semifinal here. So I think to him, it's a great disappointment.
Yeah, and hopefully, you had mentioned him possibly working with Tony Nadal in the future. I don't know how that relationship's going to work, but hopefully that is the part that he needs to take him to the next level to get out of this bad mental state that he's in. Because not only did he have that rough match against Sinner in the Australian Open final, but then after that, he went down to South America and just kind of like shit the bed for a couple months, like played terrible tennis, losing to guys that he shouldn't have lost to, pretty much should have cleaned up like every tournament down there. So I just feel like he's in a weird spot right now where he is doing a lot better than most players, but it's still not up to his standard.
Yeah, and it's like, where does his standard lie? It should lie at winning slams.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, maybe this is his standard. Maybe his baseline isn't as high as we're kind of giving him credit as. But
Yeah, like if he considers this to be a success,
mhm.
maybe that says something about where his mentality is.
Yeah, yeah. But Khachanov, on the other hand, he is back into his first Masters 1000 final since what, Paris 2018, 7 years ago.
Yeah,
So this kind of came out of nowhere, huh?
awesome for him, and actually it's boosted him up. He's like the top Russian player now in the year to date rankings. So
Whoa.
he's really having a great year compared at least to the other Russian guys.
Yeah, that's funny. I feel like when you talk about, because he's part of that generation, right? Like Medvedev, Rublev, Ruud, Zverev, he kind of gets a little overshadowed by them, but he's been around for a while and he's kind of fluctuated. Now he's top Russian. Where does
Yeah,
that put him in the rankings? Do you
I think
know?
he's number 11 right now year to date.
Damn,
Yeah,
damn.
but
And
obviously you have like Fokina not being in Cincinnati. That could be an opportunity for Khachanov to pass him.
yeah, so let's talk about the final now. We got Ben Shelton. He wins his first Masters 1000 final. This match was a thriller too. Like he came back from a set down and won it in a third set breaker. And with this, Ben Shelton becomes the youngest American man to win a Masters 1000 title since Roddick in 2004. Like obviously you had Runa, Alcaraz, like a lot younger guys, but I feel like we had mentioned this before. When you start adding in kind of like certain what do you want to call it? Like nuances, like first American man to win it. Like that's kind of when you know that American tennis is coming back when everyone is comparing it to like Roddick back in his day. It's like, oh, first American man since Roddick to do this. So
Yeah.
glad to see, another American feat.
Yeah, I mean, there's a positive and a negative to that, right? Like, if it was really American tennis starting to like be on the rise, you would hope that it was like an American player, but they don't even have to mention that it's American. Like, if he was the
Touche.
youngest guy to win a Masters 1000 since 2004, that would be a lot bigger of an accomplishment than just being the American. But still, massive accomplishment. Great job by him.
And now he boosts his career high ranking to number 6 in the world. This is fucking crazy. If you would have asked me, a couple months ago if I could see Ben Shelton ranked number 6, I think I would have told you no. I think I would have really been honing in on the fact that he can produce big results, but he's not consistent enough. Like this is big for him.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking on that, like the inconsistency aspect is something that I saw an article. It was actually kind of related to my What's New this week, but Tommy Paul was talking about how it's almost scary how good a lot of players on the tour are getting right now. And he was talking about Sinner and Shelton specifically, where Sinner, like he's starting to like really be able to come to the net and have impressive volleying skills. And it's like, well, if Sinner can do that, he has literally there's no downside to his game. And he was like, Shelton, on the other hand, he's known for this really aggressive style of tennis, but in Canada, he was able to play some more long, drawn out points and be successful with them. So maybe being able to balance that out and create a more balanced game rather than this just massive serve +1 on the forehand from Shelton, being able to balance that out could lead to some more consistent success.
Totally. And Shelton has even said, I feel like, he was sick and tired of getting grouped into just being a big server. He was saying, like, hey, guys, I can do other things than serve big. I can play from the baseline. So, yeah, like you said, dude, just explosive player and like really fun to watch, too. I think overall, he brings a new style to tennis. Like, you have contrasting styles between Sinner, Alcaraz, now Shelton, and like other top guys, too. So, it's just fun to watch.
100%. Yeah.
And then as a testament to younger talent on the tour, just one more stat here. He becomes the sixth player born in the 2000s to win a Masters 1000 title.
Yeah, which is it's just crazy. I mean, speaking on the '90s as well, like it really shows how much of a forgotten generation that is. Because of all the 10 years in the 2000s, only 14 different players born in the 1990s have actually won a Masters 1000 tournament. Nine of which have only won one. So they really are just that forgotten generation of players.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Oh, well, I mean, the big three just succumbed to the big three, huh?
Exactly, exactly.
All right, so that about wraps up Toronto. Let's kick over to Cincinnati, where this tournament just started a few days ago. Let's start off with the upsets, as we normally do. We got Rude losing to Rinderknecht, Musetti losing to Bonzi, and then Deminar losing to Opelka in straights, who got a wild card. What do you think about these upsets? You surprised? You kind of expecting them?
Yeah, I mean, first up, I just want to comment. Like, it is does seem crazy how fast this turnaround was. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, 1 week is this tournament, and then like the next. It was literally like the tournament in Cincinnati is starting, and Canada isn't even finished yet. Crazy to just see that fast of a turnover, especially at this point in the season where the players are already like succumbing to exhaustion pretty much. When you look at Rude and Musetti, it just backs up that clay rat argument. Like they're really only threats on clay. I commented on this like a couple weeks ago that Musetti hasn't been dangerous on surfaces outside of clay, and this just backs it up even more. In terms of Deminar, I think it was a combination. I think he was tired from Canada, and also, like I mentioned earlier, feels like he just kind of got dominated by Opelka in terms of not being able to get his into his own rhythm on the court.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like you said, so Toronto final was happening and they were like already done with a round at Cincinnati, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what is the deal now? So I guess with this schedule, Toronto ends on a Thursday and Cincinnati just starts on like a Wednesday midweek. This is strange. I thought it was supposed to be Sunday to Sunday or at least like Monday to next Monday. Now they're
Yeah.
starting tournaments in the middle of the week.
Yeah. No, it's really weird. Like you would have thought that the Sunday was going to be the last day. I was looking at Canada and I was like, wait, what date does this tournament end? Like it ends on like a Thursday. Why? When does that ever happen? So
Yeah.
definitely a weird sort of setup there.
Yeah. But then also in Cincinnati, we got Sinner with the quickest victory of the year. He handles Galan in under an hour. This was pretty crazy because I feel like Sinner, he's taken some time off. So I thought maybe there would be a little bit of rust where he's got to shake it off, maybe drop a couple games at least, maybe not lose a set. But dude, this guy just cruised through.
Yeah, I mean, I looked up Galan after because I don't know very much about him. I mean, I've seen his name in tournaments before, but didn't really know anything about him. The first thing that came up was that he was like, it was like, oh, struggling as a vegetarian on the ATP tour, and I was like, dude, that's not working out for you after you
Yeah.
lose in under an hour against Sinner.
Yeah. He's trying to be like Djokovic.
Yeah, something,
Or maybe he's got
something.
to go full vegan.
Yeah, it's always funny when it's like, okay, you got to do what your opponents are doing. It's like maybe that's not the way.
Yeah. So after seeing this, you got to say Sinner's the favorite to win the tournament, right? I mean, like
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
unreal.
not only did he dominate his first match, you look at how well he's played this year. I mean, obviously he had the suspension that took out a lot of time, but he's won 2 out of 3 slams this year, made the final in the other, and on hard court, obviously he's only played one tournament, but it was a slam and he won it. So I feel like you got to kind of give him credit there, and comes out on hard court here and dominates. So hard to bet against him.
Yeah. And then on the other side, you got the other favorite, Alcaraz, complete opposite. He drops a set to Zumar, which, is typical Alcaraz style, where I think it was like he won first set 6-1, lost the second set 6-2, and then won the third set 6-2, something like that.
Yeah.
He'll do this, leading up and probably still make the final.
Exactly. It's like, I guess I'll lose this set. I'm just gonna. It's like he's like, I'm gonna intentionally lose this second set just because I'm gonna go for every single shot. And then he's like, okay, I'll kind of rein it back in a little bit in this third.
Yeah, it is. It's funny to see him do that. But anyway, we got the Americans starting off strong here. We got Fritz, Tiafo, Paul, Mickelson, Shelton, Nakashima all advancing, which I feel like we don't normally see. We always, at least mention one American getting upset, but nice to see all these guys pulling through in the home Masters 1000.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Shelton, I feel like it was nice. He kind of got I mean, it was almost the full match. He was up a set and a break, but got a little retirement too, so he gets to minimize his time on court, get a little bit more time to recover.
Yeah, I think he got pretty lucky in the French too with a couple retirements as well. Like there was a point where he didn't play for 4 days.
Pretty sick.
But yeah, speaking of retirement, Davidovich Fokina retires again. This is the second week in a row. He retired against Rublev last week in Toronto and then against Fonseca today after being up a set too. So just crazy to see him actually retire. And the reason was due to exhaustion.
Yeah.
This is, I feel like you got to get your fitness up, man. Like
Either,
I know
I mean,
Cincinnati's hot and stuff, but still.
I think it's just like more like it feels like less exhaustion in terms of like on that day and more like sort of chronic fatigue from just how much effort he's putting in every single day and traveling and it's just the tour getting to him. I don't think it's necessarily just the conditions in Cincinnati.
Yeah, but bummer, bummer. I mean, Fonseca, I mean,
Positive
we
for
got to
him.
mention him, right? Like, should we be mentioning him? I feel like he kind of got lucky, but still, like, because of the hype, we got to mention him every single tournament.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
now
he's a name,
he's
yeah.
through to his third match in Cincinnati. Definitely a positive step for him there.
All right, yeah. And then Medvedev, one of the upsets that maybe should have been grouped in earlier, but I feel like he kind of deserves his own little segment here because this is so, I want to say uncharacteristic of him, but lately it hasn't been.
Yeah, and it really is like it kind of is a characteristic style in which he lost this match, right? Like he won the first set, it was close, and then he lost the second. It was like 6-4, and it felt like in that third set he just like either gave up or like just didn't have like any answers of how to beat the guy, and so he he just gets clobbered in that third set. I feel like that's happened a few times recently. Seems like that's what happened against Popperin, right? And so I just don't know what he needs to change. And every time I check this, I'm like, please come on, Medvedev, just win your match. And he just like falls apart.
Yeah, it's sad watching like old Medvedev or peak Medvedev highlights. I came across a video, I don't know, on YouTube with this guy who was his hitting partner and he was hitting with him. And it was like when Medvedev was winning Dubai and like sick tournaments. And it's just like, give me that Medvedev. I miss that dude.
100%. And he's only 28. It's like realistically, he's not past like his physical prime, really.
Hmm.
It's like he could still play at that level if he was able to, I don't know, change something mentally or figure out what his strat was not working about his strategy, but it's just
Yeah,
not
so let me
working.
ask you this. Do you think it's more of a mental thing where he's burnt out, or do you think his like playing style just needs to change?
I honestly think one thing that he should maybe consider is like you look at what happened. Like, do you see Luka Doncic's transformation in this NBA
Yeah, he
offseason?
looks pretty damn cut up now, huh?
Yeah, he lost a lot of weight. And one thing I read about it was that he actually took time away from playing basketball because
Hmm.
if you're playing basketball every day, that's gonna like wear you down. It's gonna make it so you can't necessarily lock in as much on working on weights, working on other cardio, working on other aspects of your like nutrition and stuff. And so I think maybe Medvedev needs to take a little bit of time away from tennis and be like, what am I need to work? What do I need to change mentally? And what do I need to change in my tennis game? And really establish what those things are and then try to make a comeback. Because
Hmm.
where he's at right now, it's like, yes, he's going to win sometimes, but he's not going to be able to win a slam again.
Yeah, and this his career and what's going on is kind of the perfect analogy for tennis. Like tennis during a match, you have to make adjustments. You know, take the big three. They all made their certain adjustments throughout, their careers where Federer had to switch to a bigger racket head and then Nadal had to improve on his serve. And it's just like certain things that they fixed in their game to help prolong their career. Medvedev, just because he had so much success, 5 years ago, doesn't mean that that's going to work right now. Like he needs to make those little tweaks. And I can't tell you what it is. I'm not a coach, but whatever it is that needs to be done, I feel like he can, take that into his own hands and kind of make an adjustment there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you gave the perfect example right there. And I think of the big three, the biggest one is like yeah, obviously you have guys like Nadal and Djokovic like changing, for example, his nutrition and his flexibility and all that stuff we all know about. But like in terms of playing style, you look at Federer, like I feel as though as his career went on, he was like, what do I need to do to change and still win? Is like, I need to be ultra aggressive. He was already an aggressive player, but like he started taking like every backhand on the rise.
Hmm.
He was just forcing, just choking his opponents, moving straight up the court and just not letting them play. And I feel like Medvedev earlier on in his career was able to sit super far behind the baseline and beat people like that, but it's clearly not working. And I think he needs to figure out like maybe that Federer strategy is what he needs to do, where he's like, I gotta just become way more aggressive and just become that ultra aggressive player because clearly my other strategy isn't working.
Yeah, and speaking of Federer changing his game style, like he came up in a time where serve and volley was still kind of the primary tactic there, and he adjusted from that to kind of what was fitting in the early 2000s. So just the
Yeah,
ability to like change your playing style is pretty
exactly.
damn impressive.
Adapt it, create the baseline
Yeah,
game,
yeah,
and then be like, the baseline game is no longer working for me. I'm going to create this ultra aggressive come forward game.
right, right.
But anyway, you ready to hop into segments here?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
All right, so as we know, I kind of like to report on the economics of tennis, and on this time, I saw some of the prize money from Toronto. So Shelton surpasses 9 million in career prize money after this tournament. He has made 3.5 million in 2025, took home 1.1 million for winning the title in Toronto. Then, yeah, not too bad, huh? Khachanov, he surpassed 20 million in career prize money this week. He took home 500K for being the runner-up, and then just some other guys, Zverev and Fritz, 330,000 for being semi-finalists, and then the quarterfinalists got 181,000. So, yeah, just kind of reporting in on how guys are doing with earnings.
Yeah, and I just think that's crazy because like you look at just this being one tournament in the year, and guys are making 181K for being in the top eight.
Hmm.
You compare that to guys like ranked like outside the top 100 on the ATP tour, and they're struggling to make that much like in a year, or even for some guys, 2 years to make
Yeah.
181,000. So that's just kind of the brutal reality of tennis is like guys that are in like the top 50 are sitting pretty, making a ton of money. And then it's such a steep drop off to where like you're one of the 300 best tennis players in the world and you can barely survive on tour without having some sort of sponsor.
I know it's wild, and it just goes to show how important every match is for, the guys ranked outside the top 100 because they could get lucky and have a good run and win a couple matches and make as much money as they made in a whole year the year before. So just like every match matters to them. Where you got guys like Medvedev who just don't give a shit and will lose a match willy-nilly, and not really care.
Yeah, I mean, my perfect example in my mind is Chris Eubanks, right? How much money did he make in that one quarterfinal run at Wimbledon compared to like the whole rest of his career? Like, what percentage of his career earnings is that one run? Probably a significantly higher amount than we'd like to think.
Yeah, definitely double digits.
It's insane.
All right, but what about you? What did you see this week?
I mean, I kind of have already brought mine up a couple of times, but I really want to talk about the return of the serve and volley with Opelka because he said in a quote recently that he's essentially doubling down on a very aggressive play style and commented that like he kind of drifted away from that and was trying to create a more balanced game and has had like a lot more recent success where he's been trying to just maximize that serve and push and aggressive style of tennis. And I think, like I said with Tommy Paul, other players are trying to create more balanced games. And with that, the guys that aren't at the very peak have to like double down on their strengths just so they have a chance to get past a guy at the top rather than trying to like improve their weaknesses. Like if Opelka improves his baseline game, it's still like never going to be as good as Sinners. But if he improves his serve enough, he may be able to sneak out a win somewhere because he's able to stay in a match based on that one skill.
Yeah, this is interesting, like to really double down on the serve and volley because you're basically saying, like, I'm gonna have more success, but there's a limit, right? There's a ceiling on serve and volley. Like, I don't think a serve and volleyer will ever win a Grand Slam or even make, a semifinal. But at least for him, maybe this is what's gonna get him to have a successful career in tennis. Like, for example, look at Maxime Cressy. He's a perfect example of why the serve and volley doesn't work. I think it's gotten him to a certain point in his tennis career, but he's not winning titles.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is like, are you ever going to be able to beat like Alcaraz?
No.
So you want to just be able to like be able to be good enough at this one thing that you can beat other players, maybe.
Yeah, and you've brought it up before. So John Isner, he wasn't as much as of a serve and volleyer, was he? He was just kind of a 1-2 punch guy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we talked to Gimelstow about this,
Yeah.
and he was like, "No, no, 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 Isner was not a serve and volleyer." And it's like, yeah, but he also hit his serve like 180 miles an hour.
Right,
I'm exaggerating,
exactly.
but like, sometimes you're forced into that style of game.
Yeah, totally, totally. But all right, what about betting? What are you taking for bet of the week?
I'm going with Poprin plus 125 over Rublev. I mean, I know that I'm not always the biggest supporter of Poprin in my bets, but I feel like he looked really good in Canada. And if he can repeat that level, like, or even close to it, I wouldn't be surprised if he can get like a 3-set dub over Rublev.
Yeah, I like this because to me it feels like a total 50-50, like crapshoot. You got two kind of wild cards here, like
Yeah,
Popper and Rublev. You know, hey, at 125, I'll take Popper.
100%. How about you? Who'd you go for?
I'm going with Bonzi plus 225 over Tsitsipas, which I hate to do this to him again because I did it last week, but I feel like Tsitsipas could be the new Rublev, where he's just, pretty inconsistent, not as strong as he once was, but because the odds makers give, such good odds against guys who are underdogs against them, it's kind of tempting to take them. And I feel like it pays off, 60% of the time. So long story short, I'm going with my gut here on Bonzi.
Yeah, and just getting that value at the plus 225.
Yep.
And then how about match of the week? What'd you go for?
Match of the week, I'm going with the Toronto final. I mean, this,
100%, yeah.
yeah, you got to go with it here. We had a seasoned vet in Khachanov versus a rookie, Shelton, which just kind of made for a great storyline. And then the actual match itself consisted of great baseline rallies because Khachanov, he has a solid as rock backhand, and Shelton has that like very heavy lefty forehand. So those exchanges just produced great rally points. And then I love to see Shelton showing his mental toughness in this match too. He made the adjustments after losing the first set, talked to his dad, got to see that interaction on there. He saved 3 break points in the second set to, secure it, which he was down love 40, battled back, got it done, and then wins it in a tiebreaker. So shows clutch moments, but also, just mental fortitude. So great match overall, and big congrats to both guys because Shelton, huge that he won his first Masters 1000, but also Khachanov, who, like we had mentioned earlier in the episode, first Masters 1000 in 7 years and back into the top, what, 11 you said?
Yeah, at least in the year to date. So
Year to date. So yeah, good match overall.
I feel like nothing beats a super tight final like that. I do got to say though about Khachanov, like, yes, he seems like a really classy guy. He's pretty cool, but some of the time watching his matches is like watching paint dry. Like some of the rallies he had with Zverev were like 25 shots, but like it was just them sitting hitting baseline like rally balls to the middle of the court, and I'm like, guys, come on, do something. Especially when you're getting a sort of a expectation to watch an Alcaraz match and be like, this guy's going to pull something crazy. And then you watch Khachanov versus Zverev and it's like, just nothing.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. I also noticed that too. And Zverev is also, same type of style. So
Exactly.
funny to see. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.